14. Cal held onto his arm, the chain scars throbbing beneath the bandages. The raw skin itched, and the sewer's damp air clung to him. Thick, stagnant, the stench wrapping around him like a second skin. He flexed his fingers, but the ache dug in deeper. Stubborn. Every so often, the wound flared up, sharp enough to make thinking of anything else difficult. Another spike of pain lanced through his arm, and Cal bit back a grunt. "How bad is it?" Shay asked. He hadn't even noticed she'd been waiting for him. Up ahead, Jord and Quentin engaged in an animated conversation, their voices bouncing off the slimy tunnel walls. "It's fine," Cal lied, his face scrunched and teeth clenched. Shay reached for his arm. "Let me see." He jerked away. "No, nothing to be done. Just need to ride it out." Shay sighed, the kind of sigh born of experience. Cal knew she meant well, but holding his arm and rubbing it wouldn't make the pain go away, wouldn't heal a wound that persisted despite her and Artie's best attempts. "What about that coin pouch you carry with you?" Cal shot her a glare. "What are you talking about?" "Come on, Cal. I've seen you holding it. You're not as secretive as you think," Shay replied, ignoring Cal's warning signs. "It helps, doesn't it?" Cal's hand twitched toward the small pouch of rough cloth against his chest, noticing its weight as it hung around his neck. He suddenly felt very exposed, laid bare before Shay, a feeling he didn't relish. "I don't need it," he muttered, turning away. Shay watched him for a beat. "Sure, Cal. Whatever you say." She took a step, then paused, looking back at Cal. "It belonged to her, didn't it?" Cal gathered himself and walked past her, eyes fixed ahead, jaw still clenched. Behind him, Shay whispered, "Thought so." Music floated through the dank corridors of the underground waterway, sounds of revelry and laughter, out of place in the gloom. "We're here," Quentin announced, stepping through a stone archway and out into yet another grand open chamber. Ahead sprawled an expansive underground city. Squat stone buildings, no taller than a story or two, were squashed side by side, their stonework etched with the same markings as the rebellion's hideout. Streets crisscrossed between them, teeming with people. Compared to Undas's districts, this area was minuscule, but that didn't stop it from being alive with activity. How had this stayed hidden? Cal counted 12 ways out before they'd passed the first building. 6 alleys, 3 stairwells, 2 storm drains. Torchlight pooled in the slick, cobbled streets. Not the golden glow of honest hearts, but the greedy shimmer of coin changing hands in dark alleys. Quentin had called it a sanctuary. But to Cal, it looked and smelled like a trap that hadn't been sprung yet. "Mind your purses," Quentin muttered, as a pack of small children darted past, giggling at one another. They wore rags stitched into clothes, but the sound, that sound, hit Cal like a gut punch. He forced his face still. "How is this possible?" Shay breathed, spinning to take in the stalls. Merchants in vibrant clothing waved handfuls of spice under their noses. Cal's nose tickled. The air prickled like the sense of like the threat of a sneeze. Quentin smirked. "Of all people, Miss Shay, I thought you would recognize the gift at work. Do you not possess similar abilities of illusion and perception?" "Not on this scale," Shay shot back, still scanning the market stalls. "I can hide or change the appearance of maybe 1 or 2 people at a time. but even that can be taxing. Well, a man in Dredge's position requires his operations to be conducted with a certain level of discretion. I believe he has several of your giftkin in his employ, all of whom work tirelessly to keep this little paradise discreet. He spread his arms, reveling in the scene. Cal scowled. We found it easy enough. No, my boy, we were invited. Quentin winked. He directed Cal's attention to the rooftops. On either side, shadows moved, hooded figures tracking their progress. Best behavior, chain breaker. Cal and the others pressed on toward a fortress like structure, layers upon layers of water beaten stone interlaced with thick, bloated wooden beams. Arrow slits peppered the walls. Cal's neck prickled under imagined stairs. The scale and solidity of the fortress exuded an aura of dominance, a silent testament to its current owner. A lone thug stood between them and the entrance to this stone symbol of defiance, two torches ensconced on the sides of flanked gatehouses behind him. The torchlight cast dancing shadows on the ground below, bathing the thug in a shifting veil, enhancing the grimness of his features. He leaned his substantial weight onto a wooden spear he held upright in his hand and watched as the group approached, casting an intelligent eye, one that belied his outward appearance, over each of them. Good sir, Quentin said with a low and gracious bow. I believe we are expected. Nope, the thug replied. The muscles in his arms twitched. Quentin cleared his throat, his posture stiffening. We are here at Dredge's request. I suggest you move aside. Nope. The spear's wood groaned as his grip tightened. My man, I assure you I have been instructed to remove any undesirables from the vicinity of Lord Dredge's hideout in any way I see fit. Consider yourself warned. Quentin balked. Cal took a slight step forward, only to feel Shay's nails bite into his elbow. Quentin adjusted his collared jacket, cleared his throat again, and stepped forward. Would you count the chain breaker undesirable? The thug slowly dipped his head, raised his brow, and lifted the tip of his spear to Quentin's throat. You? Quentin shook his head and then gestured toward Cal. The thug scanned him from head to toe, then bellowed with laughter. The sound ricocheted off the walls. This runt! He jeered, jabbing the spear in Cal's direction. Cal moved forward again, but Shay dug her fingers in deeper. You gotta be shitting me! The thug continued to laugh, his breath reeking of onions and bad decisions. In that moment, Cal understood three things. The spear's tip was dull, but its rusted edge would leave behind a nasty infection. The man's left knee bowed inward from some old break, and this would likely end with someone's teeth in the sewer muck. The only question was whose. Quentin sighed. Yes, yes, it's all very entertaining. Now, are you going to let us pass or not? Still wheezing, the thug gestured to another at the top of the gatehouse. Chains clanked, and a few seconds later, the wrought iron gate juddered open. Wise choice, my friend. Wise choice. Quentin purred, strutting past. Cal kept his gaze trained on the thug as they moved through. Shay's grip stayed vice tight around his arm. Cal hated the moniker the people had given him, but he hated this thug's kind even more. Bullies who believed their size made them invincible. The merriment Cal had heard outside the fortress walls washed over him, its courtyard roaring with life. People jigged and swayed to bawdy tunes, tankards clashing, ale sloshing onto scarred wooden tables. It was a tavern writ large, a long bar stacked with barrels, a pot-bellied man strolling its length, bantering with the patrons slouched across the wood. No one spared Cal's group a glance as they wove through the crowd. Too drunk, too loud, too careless. Cal's eyes swept the room. No guards, no thugs, no weapons. Just drunks and the hollow-born servants weaving between them, invisible as ghosts. His jaw tightened. Movement flickered at the edges of his vision, shadows darting along the torch-lit walls. Fast, deliberate. They were being watched. At the far end of the courtyard, raised on a platform, a long table presided over the revelry. Behind it sat a man draped in finery that put George to shame. He sat in an overly ornate chair, his head lolling against a gloved hand, the other angling an empty wine glass. A giant of a woman, arms like knotted ship ropes, refilled it, then tossed the jug over her shoulder with a crash. She then turned her grip to a warhammer leaning against the table, fixing Cal with a piercing gaze. Quentin sauntered forward, arms open high and wide. Dredge, I. Dredge's glare cut him off mid-word. When he stood, slow and deliberate, the torchlight shied away from him. When he circled the table, even the drunkards' laughter died in their throats. He stopped before Cal, smelling of citrus and camphor, the scents layered over something darker. Up close, his gloves were too perfect, his boots too polished. The meticulous vanity of a man who pays others to kneel with scrubbing brushes. So, he said, letting the word hang in the air like a dagger bounce on its point. You're the man everyone's talking about. Cal didn't respond. Silence swallowed the courtyard. Tankards clunked onto tables. Music and revelry died. Only the creak of hidden crossbows and the giantess's heavy breathing remained. Drudge smirked. You don't have to say anything. Your eyes do it for you. He leaned in, perfume cloying. Fierce and dangerous. You have the eyes of a man who's willing to do whatever it takes to get the job done. The eyes of a killer. He circled Cal like a butcher sizing up meat. Am I to call you Chain Breaker? Or do you have a real name, boy? Cal held his tongue, determined to make this scap work for every piece of information. Nothing would be free. Dredge stopped in front of Cal, his body still facing the direction he'd been circling. His whisper slithered into Cal's ear. Where I come from, it's good manners to offer your name when asked. But I suppose an orphan like you wouldn't know anything about manners, would you, Cal? Cal's blood froze. His nostrils flared, lips parted in a slight snarl. Not the best first impression, Dredge sighed, stepping back. We were told you have supplies for us, Shay's voice cut in. Dredge's gaze shot toward her. Ah, the daughter of the infamous rebel Barkis. Tell me, what is it like to grow up in the shadow of a legend? Exactly how much does it take to make Daddy proud? Shay stood her ground, unflinching. It can be annoying, especially when upstart little men think they can use that knowledge against me. Dredge barked a laugh and stepped back from Cal, leaning himself against the table once again. You really are your father's daughter, even down to that veneer of importance. He took a long swig from his wineglass and set it back down with a thunk. But let me give you a free piece of advice. Don't get lost in your little illusions, lest you forget how dangerous reality can really be. Hidden crossbows clicked in unison. Cal's fingers twitched toward his blades as he brought his gaze back down to Dredge. At me all you want, boy. You're in my domain. Here, I am untouchable. Dredge clicked his fingers, and a single crossbow bolt cracked into the ground at Cal's feet. You do well to remember that. Another crossbow latch clicked in the shadows above. You didn't invite us here just to threaten us. Jord eyed the crossbow bolt as he stepped toward Dredge. Men like you don't waste arrows on warnings. We know you want something from us. Neither your advice nor your aid comes for free. Dredge threw his head back and cackled, a noisy, crackling sound that echoed through the cavern. Bravo! He pushed himself off the table and sauntered back to his seat. I expected nothing less from the scion of House Tull. George shifted on the spot. Oh, yes, I know who you are, too. Last surviving son of Jaren Tull, the merchant prince of Undis. Daddy's little rebel. He'd be so proud to see the man you become. Let's pray your end is less messy. He drew back, tutting. Such a pity. Are you going to help us or not? Cal growled. Darla. Dredge turned to the giantess. Looks like the dog can speak after all. Who'd have thought? Not me. Darla grunted back in a voice cracked and rough. Don't like the way the little wannabe's eyeing ya, boss. She rumbled, hefting her warhammer. Now, Darla, play nice. Dredge smirked. To answer your question, Chainbreaker, yes, I am going to help you. That is, after you've helped me. Help you how? Cal replied, his gaze fixed on Darla's deep, menacing scowl. There is a certain individual who has entrenched himself within the upper echelons of the Daven court. A misguided individual who, so far, has remained immune to my persuasive charms. Shocker, Cal scoffed. Dredge ignored the comment, instead cleaning his fingernail as if such talk bored him. I want this individual removed. I need to send a message that refusing my cooperation can lead to particularly nasty results. You want us to kill him? Cal asked. Dredge chuckled in response. So ready to dole out death, this one. Have you ever seen anything like him, Darla? All fire and spit. He doesn't look like much to me, Darla continued, her scowl daring Cal to make the first move. Wouldn't take much to put this mutt down. Dredge looked between Darla and Cal. Now, that is a fight I would pay to see. Darla took a step forward. Cal did the same, one hand reaching for the hilt of the jagged blade. Jord threw his arm out in front of Cal and shook his head, slightly. We didn't come here to add to your problems, Dredge. Lord Dredge, if you please, Dredge replied with venomous mirth. Of course, Lord Dredge, Jord replied. We came here seeking your aid, and you have provided us with an avenue for such. However, I do find something odd. Jord hesitated before continuing. Go on, Dredge said, still smirking. Assassinating this Uden official seems unwise. Any attempt on his life, whether successful or not, could potentially be traced back to you. Therefore, I can only surmise that you wish for him to be removed in some other way. A way that falls in line with the political games the upper elite are known to play. And what way would that be, Lord Tull? Dredge asked. You say this official has refused to cooperate with you, a man who already stands out amongst his peers. It is a well known fact that the elite often parley with the more criminal elements of the city. A man of such moral standing likely has enemies within the court. Enemies who'd like nothing more than for him to disappear. If we cannot kill the man, then we kill his reputation. Subterfuge. Dredge's clapping echoed throughout the chamber. He pulled out several worn pieces of paper from inside his jacket and placed them on the table. Jord picked them up, scanning each before tossing them back to Shay. Evidence tying the official to the rebellion? Dredge's smile deepened. If we do this, you'll give the rebellion the supplies they need. The weapons? Oh, I offer something far more valuable than that. What? Cal snarled. Dredge was playing them. He knew it. Dredge knew it. Like it or not, Dredge had them right where he wanted them. My silence, Dredge purred, his gaze passing over each of them. Letting his words sink in, he turned to Darla. What was the current bounty on the chain breaker again? Darla's lips curled into a smile. Lots, she scoffed. Dredge turned back to the group. Imagine what I could do with lots. I've got another way of keeping you silent, Cal growled, his hands going for his hilts once again. Try it, Darla snapped, slamming the head of her warhammer on the ground, readying herself for a swing. Shay pulled on Cal's hand, and Jord put his hand against his chest. Do this for me, Dredge said, cutting through the palpable tension. And I promise on my honor that neither the prefects nor the inquisitors will hear about your little hidey hole in the sewers. We accept, George said, crestfallen. Dredge beamed. Excellent. He jumped out of his seat and clapped his hands together, the gesture quickly followed by the sound of crossbows uncocking. Now, time is of the essence. Our mutual friend owns an estate in the inner ring of the city, but access to it will be tricky. Two of his assistants regularly visit the outer rings, passing handouts to the less fortunate among us. I hear our official friend is quite the benevolent benefactor. Charities, hospices, shelters for the downtrodden. Holdings in all the major cities of Eudos, in fact. He shot Cal a look, then refocused his attention on Jord. Tail his lackeys. Learn what you can. Steal what you can. But remember, no killing. Questions? No one replied. No? Good. Oh, and let's pretend I made all the relevant threats about the consequences of betraying me. He added, gesturing to the top of the courtyard wall. Torches flared along the upper walls, bathing the gruesome sight of people bolted to wooden crucifixes. Blood seeped from multiple wounds. Thick, iron mottled collars closed around their throats, the metallic pins pulsing with a sickly glow. Of course, that collar won't be of much use on you, chain breaker. Dredge sighed. But I'm creative. The courtyard fell silent again, the scene above too horrific to put into words. Come on, Cal, let's go, George said eventually, pushing Cal's chest. Cal stared at the crucified victims, his blood boiling as the collar pins glowed. He brought his gaze back down and settled it on Dredge, promising himself that he'd come back here after everything was finished. After the deal was done, come back and make permanent Dredge's silence. The last dregs of the afternoon sunlight seeped through the crack as Cal pushed open the sewer hatch. He scanned the quad, looking for anything out of place. Quentin had assured them all this particular sewer's exit would place them a few storehouses away from George's. The quad was abuzz with its usual happenings. Workers carrying wooden boxes containing gift knows what to and fro. The sounds of an energized argument in the distance, discussing shipping levies and the like. Everything was business as usual. We're clear, Cal called down to the others as he hoisted himself out of the sewer hole. Quentin's voice floated up, smug. You see, you should be more trusting, Cal. Cal ignored the comment. He didn't have the patience for it right now. The meeting with Dredge bothered him more. That man was far more dangerous than any of them had realized. If he already knew the location of the rebellion's hideout, then others might as well. He told himself he didn't care about most of the people here, but Artie was still there. Plus, Shay would be devastated if something happened to her father. The rebellion was all she had left. The thought twisted his gut. Are we really doing this? Framing some innocent man? Shay asked, her voice filled with trepidation as she climbed out. Jord brushed dirt up from his sleeves. We have little choice in the matter. The Resistance needs the weapons Dredge can offer. Without them, I don't see us surviving much longer, outmatched as we are. And Dredge knows about the hideout, Cal added. He's better informed than you realized. Indeed, I hate to say it, but his silence is the more valuable commodity at this point. I know all that. It just feels wrong, Shay said. Cal agreed. The prefects and the Davins deserved what was coming to them. Their hands were just as bloody as Cal's. But this Uden official? He was innocent. If anything, he was helping the downtrodden and the needy more than Cal was. We don't have a choice, Shay, he said, forcing his tone softer. We do what we need to survive. I don't like this either. Her gaze held his, complicated as always. Cal is right, George said. We have no time for compunction. We do the job, get the weapons, and wash our hands of Dredge entirely. Couldn't have put it better myself, Quentin chimed in. Might I suggest we split the party, as it were? After all, we have two targets to track, and this will be an awful lot faster if we were to split into two teams. Agreed. Shay and I will stay in the swell. It should be easy enough to spot our target among the workers there. Quentin, you go with Cal to the tideway and look for anyone offering aid to the helpless. Quentin dipped into a performative bow. Of course, my liege. George smirked. After you're done, meet us at the gate to the inner ring. Hopefully, we'll find whatever we need to enter the official's estate. If not, Cal, Shay, I'll be relying on you to get us in. Cal and Shay both nodded in response. I know this doesn't feel good. We're taking from the very people we're trying to liberate, but desperate times call for desperate measures. No one replied. The facts were too uncomfortable to think about. Even Quentin's expression appeared more solemn than it had been a few moments before. Good luck, everyone, George said, looking at each of them individually, stopping on Cal. Cal, a word? He gestured to the side and took Cal by the arm, leading him a few steps away from the others. George's voice lowered as he leaned in close. I know you don't like Quentin. I know he can be difficult to stomach. Cal raised his eyebrow in response. I know, but George looked back, his voice barely above a whisper. He's still injured. Look after him. He squeezed Cal's arm. Please, Cal. Cal read the exasperation in his friend's eyes and then gave a curt nod. George exhaled, relieved. Thank you. He returned to Quentin, giving him a quick kiss before saying his own farewells. Shay offered Cal a faint smile before turning to follow behind George. Cal sighed and made his way over to a beaming Quentin, not relishing the realization that it was going to be a long day.